Okay, thank you everybody for joining us at this great event to discuss what important steps we need to take in ensuring that the African Medicines Agency's reality and what great improvements Africa has made during this period to ensure we cope with COVID. Firstly, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody who are listening to us and watching us. I am Kaldip Semi. I'm the CEO of the International Alliance of Patients Organizations. And together with our partners, the IFPMA, we are hosting this in a joint IFPMA IAPO webinar. I need to set some ground rules first. Please use the chat function for your questions. Please keep your chat to that which is necessary and required. We do not want to see any defamatory comments or any chit-chat that's not adding value to our discussion here. Put there so we can scan those chats and we can then bring them back into our questions to the panelists. Secondly, please mute yourself when you're not speaking, as Catherine has put, and also ensure that you follow the decorum and make sure you keep to your time when you discuss. And we will then open the meeting up. It's my great pleasure first to introduce our moderator. Catherine, whom you have heard a number of times elsewhere, has been a very good journalist accredited by the United Nations. She has worked extensively on African issues. She has worked some of the very tough issues on health. She's worked some of the tough issues on social economic issues of health. Currently, she's based in Geneva, at the heart of where all the permanent missions to the UN are based. And she has really the pulse on what is happening in Africa right now, how the 55 states are going through this pandemic at the moment. And I now have that great pleasure to hand over to her capable hands. And let's see how this evening's whole event transpires. Catherine Fekanga Okongo, it shows now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kawaldeep, for these very nice words. Welcome to all of you. We are very happy to have so many of you today with us. As Kawaldeep said, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. As you know, today we'll focus on the African Medicines Agency. So I kindly remind all the viewers that it is a proposed specialized African Union agency that would like to facilitate and the harmonization of medical regulation throughout the African Union. I remind you that the treaty was established I would like to remind you that the treaty was adopted by the African Union in February 2019, and it requires 15 ratifications to come into effect. As per today, we have 18 countries that signed the treaty, but only 6 countries did ratify it. And these 6 countries are Mali, Burkina Faso, Rwanda, Guinea, the Seychelles Islands, and Ghana. And we are very fortunate to have among the high-level panelists a representative of Ghana. So now I will directly propose you to watch a very short video that has been prepared by AUDA NEPAD on the African Medicine Agency. So please, we'll look at that now.
Everyone has the right to effective healthcare and a well-functioning health system. Africa has made great strides in accelerating the major challenge of increasing access to medicines through various public health interventions. However, about half of the population in the poorest places still do not have access to safe, efficacious, and quality medical products. Local pharmaceutical production remains low, with only about 2% of consumed medicines being locally manufactured in Africa. About 25 to 30% of medical products are substandard and falsified, and illicit trade in pharmaceutical drugs remains persistent. This poses a series of threats to public health. Now, more than ever, it's time for change that will ensure African people have quality of life, sound health, and well-being, a priority area in the African Union Agenda 2063. The African Medicines Agency, or IFPMA Treaty, was endorsed in February 2019 by African heads of state as part of the journey towards an internationally recognized and well-established regulatory authority on the continent. As an organ of the African Union, legally mandated by member states, IFPMA's goal is to increase the availability of safe and affordable medicines and other health products on the continent. This will be achieved through providing regulatory oversight of selected medical products, as well as promoting regional and national cooperation and harmonization of regulatory decisions. IFPMA will also support the growth of local pharmaceutical companies, opening up and expanding markets across Africa, which is one of the key objectives of the Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Plan for Africa and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Working across 55 AU member states, regional economic communities, and regional health organizations, the African Medicines Agency will coordinate and strengthen ongoing regulatory harmonization in the following ways. Firstly, IFPMA will evaluate medical products for the treatment of priority diseases as determined by the African Union. It will also regularly inspect, coordinate, and share information about products that are authorized for marketing. IFPMA will coordinate joint reviews of clinical trials applications for vaccines, assessment of highly complex product dossiers such as biosimilars. IFPMA will also coordinate joint inspections of active pharmaceutical ingredients, API manufacturing sites. By developing common standards and regulations, IFPMA will also be responsible for harmonizing legislation. For the health and well-being of our people, let us take this further by establishing the African Medicines Agency. IFPMA must be ratified by at least 15 member states in order for it to come into force. We call on all African governments to ratify the IFPMA Treaty and endorse the transformation of our continent's pharmaceutical industry and health systems. With this support, the establishment of IFPMA will reach fruition. Contact the African Union for more information.
So this was a very short but interesting video to introduce IFPMA, the African Medicines Agency. And for today, we have about 5 panelists that will discuss the matter, the issue with us today. So I will start by introducing you Elos Lodzeni. Elos Lodzeni from IAPO, the Inter-Alliance of Patients Organization. Elos, welcome. Could you just make a sign? Yes, there we see you. Then we have from Auda NEPAD, Paul Tanui. Paul Tanui. Paul, can you also, yes, so like that all the viewers, the participants see you. Paul is based in South Africa, Paul from Auda NEPAD. Then we have Mimi Darko from Ghana, FDA. Mimi, hello, welcome. And we have Hiti Silo from WHO. Hiti, good morning. Nice having you with us. We have Karim Bendau from IFPMA. He is the African chair of Africa Bureau at IFPMA, but also head of Merck Africa Bureau. Hello, and I think I have everyone. I did mention everyone. So we'll start now by directly asking a first question. We are in a situation of a pandemic, COVID-19, as you know. Until now, few countries have ratified the treaty. As I mentioned it before, and you've seen it during that short video, only 6 countries did ratify the treaty when 15 ratifications are needed. So my first question will be, is the COVID-19 going to boost the ratification and the signature of that IFPMA treaty? So I will maybe first ask the question to Elos. What do you think about it?
Yes, COVID-19 is going to have an impact on the signing and ratification of the IFPMA. We need the vaccines, medicines, as if it was yesterday. So with this, for us to get medicine in a speedy manner, we need this harmonized way through the IFPMA. So what's required is that the member states, they need to undertake the ratification and signing in a fast manner. Otherwise, we will not be able to get the vaccine in a speedy manner, thereby putting our population at a greater risk in as far as COVID is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to react on that? Maybe Paul Tanui from AUDA, NEPAD. Paul, do you think that, or do you feel already more interest for the countries, because you need also a political will in order to sign and also to ratify, because I remember that 18 countries did sign the treaty, but only 6 did ratify it. Paul Tanui.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. And thank you, IAPO and IFPMA for organizing this panel session. Yes, indeed, there is need for accelerated signing and ratification of the IFPMA treaty. And we have seen that the advent of COVID-19, as much as it is a sad situation and it is an emergency, it's a pandemic, but it has some positive impact in that it is it will push the ratification process. There is also the realization that there is need for strong regulatory systems among countries to be able to contain public health emergencies, particularly those related to supply chain disruptions. And so we need these ratifications to be speeded. You have rightly mentioned that we still are short of 12 member states to ratify, rather 9 member states to ratify this treaty. But then again, we want to ensure that we have one continental agency that can issue rapidly scientific recommendations for member states to take on. However, I should also mention that due to COVID-19, there has been some challenges because now the focus is on COVID-19. In terms of the limitations, in terms of the advocacy and interactions, there's been some drawback because, you know, the parliaments have not been able to convene where there's parliamentary, approval required by countries. So there's been some limitations as far as that is concerned. But we are working together with other partners, African Union Commission, WHO, of course, PATH, REX, IFPMA, and civil society to ensure that we put this in the agenda of the political and policy makers across Africa, and using all the platforms that are available to ensure that we advocate and we have focused advocacy for IFPMA treaty ratifications, signing and eventual ratification by countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul, for this explanation. I turn now to Mimi Darko, that is from Ghana, FDA. Mimi, Ghana did sign and ratify the treaty. Maybe you could share a bit of this experience. How did the government from Ghana decided to go quickly into that?
Thank you very much. The whole process, because it involves different legal systems, so the ratification and even the signing does not just involve the agency. So it involves Parliament, it involves the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it involves your parent ministry. So we fall under the Ministry of Health. And it also involves the Attorney General's Department, because there's a lot of legal and financial implications. So for us, what actually moved it very quickly was that we had leadership by our parent ministry. So we had very great leadership from our Ministry of Health. There was a focal person nominated from the ministry, because if you leave it just with the ministry, it never gets done. So the ministry nominated a focal person who was working with the regulatory agency and working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So basically it was teamwork between us regulators, the Ministry of Health, Attorney General's Department, because they had to look through the treaty and ensure that we were okay to sign something like this. And the Ministry of Finance even came in, because, well, if there are any financial implications to the agency, then the ministry would want to know. So basically it was teamwork. And I think that moved the process up very quickly. We were all very committed. We had to first brief Parliament. And if you don't get advocacy for this, it gets stuck there. So we had to, with the ministry, brief the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, tell them the benefits. So we asked a lot of questions. What happens to the regulatory agency? What happens to the independence of the agency, which was something that was very critical in the minds of all the legislation. Does that mean that the regulatory agency does not exist anymore? Will it affect the decisions that you take as a country? So we had to do a lot of advocacy and involve all the stakeholders. And there was political will, so eventually we got it signed. And we had to defend it in Parliament to get it ratified. So we managed to do that, but the support, the teamwork, and the collaboration was very key in getting it done. No single agency or no single stakeholder can do it by themselves. So teamwork was very important. So we've done the ratification, we've told them the importance of it, the benefits of it, and brought everyone on board. So we're left to now deposit it. Apparently it is logged in that we have ratified, but once we have not deposited, then that means we're still not finished the process. So COVID came in and a lot of things were put on hold, but I'm sure we'll deposit very soon. So that was Ghana's experience. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Mimi, for sharing this experience, because we better understand through what a country has to go in order to obtain the ratification of the treaty. And that's, as I said at the beginning of this meeting, that a very strong political will is necessary. And as you mentioned, a lot of advocacy is also needed, and teamwork. I'd like to ask now what the benefits of establishing the agency would be. So I turn now to Karim, Dr. Karim Bendahu from IFPMA and Merck Africa. So Karim, what is your views on that, your experience, because you know very well Africa and you work with the continent for many years.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Good morning to all the attendees. And I think today Africa needs strong institutions that can address the challenges of access to quality, safe, and efficacious medicinal products and technologies. Therefore, the establishment of the IFPMA is a very, very important step in the right direction. We've seen also during the COVID-19 how FDA and IFPMA have changed the way they are processing, the dossiers for vaccines and the examination of this dossier. And I think that it's also the right time to accelerate the IFPMA ratification to avoid duplication, also to provide regulatory guidance, scientific opinions in very short time, and a common framework. This alignment of regulatory system, strengthening and harmonization efforts, it's key, for optimizing also pharmaceutical markets and sustainability in the supply. Supply is key. We've seen also during the COVID-19, the shortage which happened, and I think this can be resolved if we would have IFPMA existing already. In my opinion, no single country has enough resources and capability to efficiently and effectively regulate the whole supply chain system alone in this globalized world, Therefore, IFPMA will have a distinct position to leverage various regulatory assets and capabilities to improve this access to safe medicines. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Karim, for sharing this very interesting view. Now, I'd like to ask also Paul. Paul, what do you think about the benefits that would bring the establishment of such an agency that would bring, of course, harmonization?
Yeah, thank you very much, Catherine, for this question. I think there is enormous benefit that IFPMA will bring on the table. First of all, is ensuring that there is increased access to safe, quality, and efficacious medicines. And this should be, the access should be timely. So the most important thing is that the access should be timely. And given that not all of our agencies, as mentioned earlier on by colleagues, that most of the agencies are actually struggling in terms of the resources, financial resources, technical resources. There is a shortage of expertise. And so the African Medicines Agency will bring value to these countries in terms of regulating some of the complex molecules that are being brought into the African continent. And also some of the products that are being brought into the continent where some of the regulators actually do not have the legal framework or even the capacity to evaluate. I'll give you the example of medical devices and diagnostics, for instance. And even in this period, we have seen the challenges of in vitro diagnostics that are used, or diagnostics that are used for testing for COVID-19. The various challenges that African countries have with this regard. So there is enormous benefit that will accrue from this continental body, and it will also further entrench and institutionalize the regulatory harmonization that we have been pursuing as a continent. And ultimately, of course, ensure that the continent, there is continent-wide, there is integration, following even the signing and endorsement of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So there'll be possibilities of intra-Africa trade and even promotion of local production, given the expansions of the market. So it will be a process, but ultimately we'll be working with the member states to ensure that this is a reality, and also is going to be Africa-owned institution that is very critical in terms of public health, intervention in the continent. So this is my reflection on your question, Catherine.
Thank you, Paul. Over. Thank you so much, Paul. So I turn to Elos. Elos, could you please give you the perspective from patients? What will be the benefits for patients? We don't see you anymore. We just lost you. But Elos, do you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So please, what do you think that the benefits will be for patients? And we see you. We do see you. But we don't hear you. Could you please unmute yourself?
I would say there are 2-3 benefits as patients. One, Africa has been very much infected with the fake counterfeit medicines. Now with this harmonized one-stop shop for regulatory mechanisms, it means us as patients will be receiving
We do have a small connecting problem. So I'll turn 2 minutes, we'll fix that, but I will ask now, Elos, you back?
Yeah, when you are sick.
Could you please repeat your last sentence? Thank you.
When you are sick as a patient, you can't wait for yesterday. You need medicines now. So with this one-stop shop, it means medicines will be easily available in a very, very expeditious way. So as patients, we very much look forward to having this armor in place as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Elos. ET, WHO, what would be the benefit also from when you look from WHO, the World Health Organization? What would be the advantage to have such an agency based and focused on Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much, Catherine, and also good morning, good afternoon, colleagues in this panel, and also all the participants. First of all, I would like to start by saying that WHO has been committed and involved in the whole journey of establishing the African Medicines Agency, all the way from the Luanda Declaration in 2014. And of course, all along in the process of developing the treaty and also supporting its ratification, its adoption by the African Union. We see that AMA will be building on the work that has been happening across the African continent that is supported by the World Health Organization through regulatory harmonization initiative that we have been supporting over the years, and therefore promoting efficiency in approving the products that are safe, that have been properly assessed for quality and of course effectiveness, and therefore ensuring that the people of Africa are accessing quality assured and safe medical products on time. So that is the background to our support, and we believe that AMA will actually build on this experience, which we have been supporting through the regional economic communities, the work that has been done over the last decade. 10 years now. Last year, we were actually celebrating a decade of collaboration among the partners to support regulatory system strengthening and particularly harmonization among the African countries. So we see that with the establishment of IFPMA, the work that has been ongoing on the continent will actually be taken forward by this African single agency by pooling the existing expertise, which is now only, for example, used within the regional economic communities. Now, these resources can be pulled together at the continental level and therefore support and benefit countries that are actually weak. And speaking from my own experience as a team lead for a team in WHO that is involved with the assessment of regulatory systems of course, at the global level, but also in the African continent, we have seen the capacity gaps. And therefore, having this continental agency will help to pull together the limited resources that are available in some countries and not in others to support joint assessments, especially of complex products, but also joint inspections, and therefore supporting the rest of the countries that are on the continent. We also see that, and I see some comments in the chat here, that African continent is also experiencing some challenges of substandard and falsified medical products. So by having this agency, the agency will also be able to coordinate continental efforts towards prevention, detection, and of course response to substandard and falsified medical products. And by doing this, they will be able to facilitate information sharing, and therefore the necessary actions are taken on time. As we know, these products do move quickly between countries. And if there's an effective coordination at the continental level, then information can be shared quickly and the necessary actions can be actually taken. I can conclude by saying that, at least at this point, the African Medicines Agency will also coordinate capacity building activities in collaboration with other international partners, WHO leading this support, linking the agency with other mature and advanced agencies, and to ensure that capacity is also continually built on the continent by identifying the experts and also supporting them in terms of enhancing their capacity. So the African Medicines Agency will also be, I think, playing a critical role in this area. And very lastly, with a strong agency on the continent, you are also encouraging investment in production of quality assured pharmaceutical products on the continent, because the investors are sure that the products will be on a market that is of quality assured products, and therefore this will also contribute to enhancing local production of quality assured medical products on the African continent. Over from my side for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you, Hiti, for this very complete answer and detailed. But now that we've understood that it is an entity that is needed, an entity that is going to bring a lot of benefits for Africa, how do you explain that since the establishment of the treaty in 2019, so few countries did sign it and did ratify it? We understood through Mimi that it has to go under a quite difficult process, and that a very strong political will is needed, and also communication. A lot of advocacy is needed. So Paul, I turn to you first. Do you have an explanation about the fact that only 6 countries did ratify the treaty until now?
Thank you very much for this important question. I think, yes, it's now we're going into 2 years since the endorsement of the Africa Medicines Agency Treaty by the African leaders. But we might ask ourselves, what is preventing the signing and ratification of the treaty to establish the Africa Medicines Agency? So one is the requirements for ratification. We should bear in mind that we are 55 member states, so the requirements vary significantly between countries. And timeframes are also determined in part by whether the country has what the lawyers call monist or a dualist legal system. These are presidential or legislative legal systems. So the different legal systems that are applicable for ratification of international treaties amongst the AU member states vary significantly. Some are go through the executive system, others go through legislative systems. So while we have the executive systems where presidential decree is enough to get a treaty signed. For the most part, again, in most cases, again, you need in the dualist system, you need parliamentary approval, and I think Mimi from Ghana FD has also explained how they went through this system. And this need a lot of understanding and a lot of advocacy amongst the policymakers. One of the drawbacks in the current situation, of course, is the prioritization of COVID-19 response, which has also hampered our progress in terms of ratification, signing and ratification of the treaty amongst member states, because I know a lot of resources and a lot of energies have been channeled to responding to COVID-19. There is also a little bit insufficient political will, not for any reason, but due to little or lack of knowledge of the benefits and costs of the Africa Medicines Agency for the country. So the limited understanding of the value of AMA that it brings to the member states is an issue. Also, the countries would want to understand what are the costs, what are the implications, and so on by signing this treaty. The other issue that is of importance is that most countries have lengthy political processes, and it also depends on the country ratification systems. And there are also gaps in information relating to the operationalization of the Africa Medicines Agency, including funding, governance, and the selection process for the host country. So we are trying to fill these gaps by passing on information to member states. There are also more concerns around centralized approach to regulatory approvals, and also the fact that some countries are wondering whether establishment of Africa Medicines Agency will replace their sovereign authority over regulatory matters, which clearly is not the case. So this is what I want to say. And again, there is a political angle to this, which we need to take into account, that we need to engage the political class, policymakers, the ministers, the various ministers for health, ministers for foreign affairs, ministers for justice or attorney general's office. So it's quite a lengthy process. Then there is a technical process to support signatories to ratify through their respective processes, including deposition of the legal instruments with the AUC legal counsel. So I see this as a long process that is that I can consider as hampering the signing and ratification of the treaty. Thank you. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Paul. That's the reason why I turn now to Mimi, because she did explain us that it has been a teamwork, and you explained us a little bit how, in fact, the different ministries work together. And was it really difficult to convince and the parliament to convince the political people about the interest of ratification? And do you have also the opportunity to advocate with neighboring countries or during meetings in order for the treaty to enter into force? Because you need a little bit more countries, a few more in order for the treaty to enter into force and for the agency to be established. Mimi, please, the floor is yours.
Thank
I
you
remember
very much.
that, Mimi, I remember that you are in Ghana and that you're from Ghana FDA.
Yes.
Thank you, Mimi.
So it wasn't a difficult process, but it is a very detailed process because before you can get to Parliament, you have to go through Cabinet. So to get Cabinet approval, Cabinet will ensure that you have worked with every single stakeholder. I mean, even the local government you have to work with because rules are going to change. You have to even work with your security agencies because now you're not working just as one country, you're working as a lot of countries together. We would work with, as I said, we work with Attorney General. So it wasn't particularly difficult. The benefits are known. I mean, we had to advocate for the benefits. We used Ebola as an example. I mean, when the Ebola vaccine or the Ebola clinical trial was supposed to be done in Ghana. Now, if we had such harmonized systems, then we would not have been standing alone as a country. We have already AVRF, which has been working with the different countries in the area of fast-tracking clinical trials for pipeline medication. So the benefits of AVRF was already known. We had already done a lot of advocacy as a WHO. So in showing the benefits of AMA, it was not so difficult. What we had to show was how do you as a sovereign country, how does it affect your sovereignty? Does it mean that you will not exist anymore once you have AMA, or are there other things that can happen that will not happen in a centralized procedure? So we did explain, we used the European Medicines Agency to explain. We have been already part of the Africa Medicines Regulatory Harmonization, which is working towards the AMA. And we told them the benefits of that. Fortunately, we did it before Ebola, so we didn't have to use Ebola as an example. That would have been a perfect example for us. Sorry, COVID. COVID would have been an actually very, very good example for us, but we did it before COVID. So we used the example of much needed vaccines, like the malaria vaccine, where we had to use the AVRF system, which is the same sort of regulatory harmonization with different countries, and how we managed to evaluate malaria vaccine within a short time and made it available, and where the 3 countries that introduced it are already speaking to each other. So we used that as an example, saying that, well, if we had the whole of Africa speaking, then things would actually move faster it would also be good for us to be able to build capacity in areas that we didn't have, and to be able to support other countries, because we are borderless, more or less. And so if there's a counterfeit medicine in one country, or there's a substandard medicine that is not picked up in one country, it can infiltrate into your own country. So we use those sorts of scenarios to convince them. It wasn't difficult, but it is slightly bureaucratic, if I should put it that way. We don't use executive channel. We have to use the legislative channel. So that took a bit of doing. But as I said, once there's a focal person, and once there's commitment, and there was commitment all around, from the Ministry of Health, there was commitment, from Parliament, there was commitment to move it up once they understood. And the political will was there, and the stakeholder involvement. We involved everyone. They looked at the laws, they looked at it and decided it was fine. Convincing other countries is not something that we have done. When we meet for the Africa Medicines Regulatory Harmonization, it is a topic that comes up. How many countries have signed? How many countries have ratified? And in that group, we actually do speak to the other representatives of the other countries, telling them how we did it. So that in itself may be advocacy to other countries, but that is as far as we have gone. We have not gone beyond our countries as individual countries to advocate with other countries. So I think in that AMRH group, we have done some advocacy, but that's as far as we've gone.
Thank you, Mimi. It's very interesting. I just remind, because I see in the chat, please use the chat to ask your questions. That would be very helpful. So like that, we will address them, your question to the group of speakers or to certain speakers if you tell us to which speaker the question is addressed to. I would like to remind to the different viewers or participants that 15 countries are needed to ratify the treaty. Until today, 18 have signed it and 6 have ratified. So you understood that Ghana did it, but you have also Mali, Burkina Faso, Rwanda, Guinea, and the Seychelles Islands. These are the 6 countries that, as per today, have signed and ratified the treaty. So we understand that we need more political will, and I see in the questions that some questions are related to, of course, the role of that agency. Is it going to be disturbing for the pharmaceutical industry, for instance? I see one of the questions. But will it help in case of outbreaks or pandemic? Mimi, your tongue slipped when you spoke about Ebola. It is true that when we have big outbreaks, and this is maybe one of the reasons that Africa is doing so well with COVID-19, is that Africa learned the lesson with the Ebola outbreaks in often very, very difficult situation and zones like in DRC. So people are more maybe used to listen to the different guidances sent by the World Health Organization. So I'd like to ask, for instance, Karim, what he thinks about the situation. How do you explain the fact that the ratification is so slow when you know that 18 countries did sign it, only 6 ratified it? Is it because some countries think that it will maybe weaken their authority in the domain? And is it a threat for the pharmaceutical industry? How do you see it? I remember that Karim is representing IFPMA. And of course, he's head of Africa Bureau of Merck.
Oh, thank you, Catherine, for the question. Yeah. From industry perspective, I think the current regulatory fragmentation and complexity arise from the convoluted and duplicative requirement imposed by each and every drug agency. I mean, is making things extremely complex. We've seen, first of all, to answer your question, we've seen how IFPMA was extremely helpful in accelerating the access to new therapy, the access of essential drugs, the access to good quality medicines. So the answer is simply there. I mean, just look at what's happened with since the IFPMA started to exist, and then you will understand. But I think 55 countries, it's not an easy, it's quite a challenge. It's not an easy task. I mean, having 55 countries ratifying a treaty is not really an easy task. I mean, even in the very, 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 very well organized and developed country, it's still quite a challenge. So, and it is this COVID-19, I do understand that it takes a bit of time. But on the other side, let me try to be a bit disruptive. I mean, as Mimi mentioned, the African national regulatory authorities have already faced many challenges, such as HIV, Ebola, malaria still, and they have all tested their capabilities. However, with the COVID-19, national regulatory agencies can now benefit from the virtual working methods that the pandemic has, in a matter of months, made the new norm for most of us. Trends such as digitalization, with a topic that I love, because I strongly believe that we can build a strong and solid public health system in Africa by using the digitalization. So the digitalization and regional cooperation is creating new opportunities. You know, to have all the regulatory agencies discussing and seated around the table in the past, it was requiring an organization of a summit, something like that. Now you can organize a summit or a regional meeting in a couple of days, or in a couple of weeks. So using this modern and digital infrastructure, the expectation is to accelerate the implementation of an efficient regulatory policies and practices, and make the IFPMA one of the most efficient, and I believe in that, and modern regulatory system in the world. Because we are picking up the problem and the issue just in this COVID-19 period, where we are transforming the way where we are cooperating. So this is also an opportunity to have a solid African healthcare system with a focus on the resilience and equity. And we as an industry, we are really, we feel now responsible for that, and we feel involved, and we need really to see that happening. So communication, digital tool, and whatever we can do to make this IFPMA alive, I think is part of our duty. Thank you.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I wanted to could you please tell us also about the quality, because we know that Africa has a problem with fake medicine. So could you please elaborate a little bit on that one?
Yeah,
how
definitely.
an agency would in fact give a better control of the quality of the medicine?
Look, quality is all about data and processes. So if you have an agency centralizing the data and the processes, then you know, in the continent of the fastest growing mobile ecosystem, you know, you have this, in Africa, you have 70% of the continent which is covered by 3G or 4G networks. Additionally, this high-speed broadband across the continent are being installed, you know. I mean, we'll soon have also the 5G in Africa. So this communication infrastructure coupled with some software and innovations, including home testing, AI, chatbot, call center, you know, this will allow us to really take the best profit out of the serialization of the drugs and the tracing of the drugs. If you have serialization, tracing, and the data process in one agency, I mean, it's done. You will get rid, at least out of the 30% existing falsified products, you will get rid of 20% of this. 10% will be remaining, and this is something different to be considered. So yeah, that's also the way how we can fight the counterfeited product and falsified product only with serialization and digitalization mainly.
Thank you, Karim. I now turn to Hiti, WHO. could you please give us more information about the work that you as WHO are doing with Africa, and also about IFPMA? Are there meetings in order to know more about the agency? Do you have meetings to explain or to coordinate the future agency? And I remind also everyone that we need 15 countries to ratify. And one of the questions that after I will ask to Paul is, how can we start if we only have 15 countries that have ratified the agency? Will it help to go then further? But first I turn to Hiti. Hiti, could you please elaborate a little bit about the position of WHO regarding IFPMA, and also the access to medicine, and maybe will it facilitate the harmonization of different maybe tools that you would provide to the continent? How do you see that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Catherine. And I'll be building on my initial reflection on this panel discussion again. And thank you. I'm also seeing some interesting questions here. We are actually in touch with the African Union Commission to support them in this process of ensuring that more countries do ratify the treaty. And for this, I just wanted to bring to the attention of the panelists and also all the participants that based on the discussion with the African Union Commission, and also to ensure that we also target certain countries to make sure that more countries do ratify, and also to ensure regional distribution, geographical distribution across the continent. Our Director General has actually written to 23 ministers of health to advocate for the ratification of the treaty. And also our regional director in the African region has also reached out to some key representatives in countries to ensure that they follow up with the governments to accelerate the ratification process. Some of you might have heard in 2019 in November, our Director General did sign also a memorandum of understanding with the AUC, a chairperson of the AUC Commission, of the African Union Commission, to further reaffirm and commit the WHO. That we are very committed to supporting this process, and this also includes working together to fundraise to support once the agency is actually fully operational. We have also developed what we call Q&A or question and answer advocacy paper that we have also sent to our WHO representatives in countries, so that they are available before the ministers to clarify any key questions in order to support and facilitate the countries in the ratification process, as explained by Mimi here. So we are reaching out as an organization to the ministries through the network of WHO country reps who are actually working with the ministers of health all the time. Just wanted to also mention that in 2019, we had actually planned that sometimes this year with a delegation from the African Union Commission and African Union Development Agency, AUDA, NEPAD, together with WHO, undertake a study visit to the United States FDA to benchmark from them, and this will guide them in the process of establishing this agency. So this, of course, did not happen because of COVID, but our role here was to facilitate this study visit, and we'll also be engaging in the future on this once the situation of pandemic further becomes better. I just wanted to say that in wherever we have opportunities through the regional economic communities where meetings are taking place, we have used those opportunities to advocate for the establishment of the African Medicines Agency through the regional economic communities, but also as I said, we are also engaging with other mature agencies, for example, with the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety of the Republic of Korea, to ensure that the AUC is also learning from them, so that these skills, the experiences they get from there, are actually transferred to the establishment of the African Medicines Agency. So these are some of the efforts that we are undertaking. As I think in our preparatory course, I did mention that we are, for example, having the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Week from 9th to 10th of December. Paul can confirm that, where we are also discussing about IFPMA and encouraging countries to ensure that they fast track the process. We have actually confirmed during this COVID pandemic how important it is for countries to collaborate. A good example is the support that we provide through the MRI Technical Committee responsible for medical devices and IVDs, for which Paul from AUDA is also coordinating from the AUDA side, as well as the African Vaccines Regulators Forum, for which Mimi is actually the chair. They need to collaborate, and they need to quickly take decisions under the circumstances of emergency. So we will continue to provide this support until we make sure that 15 ratifications are attained, and IFPMA is fully operational, and we will be there to provide all the linkages and all the technical support for efficient running of this agency. Over to you, Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you, Iti. But as you just mentioned, because of the relations that you have with the regional organizations, and so I turn to Paul. Isn't it better to first harmonize on a regional level before having, I would say, the ambition to regulate it on a continental base? What do you think, Paul? We need harmonization. That's true. That's right. And maybe could you give us also a bit more details about the content of the treaty, because we speak about the treaty, but none of us have read the content of it. Maybe you could give us the big lines. What are the priorities of the treaty? Paul, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Many
Catherine.
Questions.
Yeah, I mean, it is fine. First of all, just to answer your question about the content of the treaty. So the treaty is based on, it's a treaty based. We were advised by the Legal Counsel of the African Union Commission in terms of the elements that go into the treaty, the objectives. It is a bit of a high level treaty in terms of the objectives and the aims. And we have alluded to this in terms of discussing the benefits of the African Medicines Agency. And of course, there are other elements that are of importance that the treaty addresses. Talking about, you know, the work of the technical committees, as Hiti has alluded to. So it caters for responses, and it's meant initially to be lean in terms of its governance structure. So we have the Conference of the Parties consisting of ministers of health. We have the governance board consisting of representatives from the regional economic communities, regional health organizations, ethics committees, and also the Commissioner for Social Services. So this is the governance of the treaty, and it is all available for you to download. But it does have articles to do with the administration and institutional framework, issues around the key objectives and the key functions. And this is what we have been discussing all along this morning. This is areas around the regulatory functions that the Africa Medicines Agency will initially focus on. That is marketing authorization, GMP inspections, consolidating a database for the active pharmaceutical ingredients, issues around safety monitoring, and also issues around evaluation of products that are not normally evaluated at the country level, or that there are no capacities at the country level. So we are going to be pulling resources from the countries, expertise from the countries, so that they are at that level, at the continental level, so that they can issue scientific opinions. Nevertheless, this is a high-level treaty, as I said. And of course, I didn't talk about the oversight of clinical trials, which AVREV has been conducting, and also areas of quality control. So just to give you some more information about the way the AMRH governance structure is that at the technical level, we have what we call technical committees. So we aspire that these technical committees that are focusing in different areas, and ET has mentioned one of the areas that is medical devices and diagnostics. It's called the Africa Medical Devices Forum, will be one of the technical committees for the Africa Medicines Agency, as well as AVREV, Africa Medicines Quality Forum, and other technical committees, including even Africa Blood Regulators Forum, because we also have another forum that is looking at quality and safety of blood and blood products. So this is the highlight of the treaty, and once it comes into operations, after 15 member states ratify, then it will take a life of its own as an agency of the African Union. So there is still a process, of course, for selecting the host country. Mm-hmm. There is a general criteria that has been put forward by the heads of state and endorsed in 2005 on criteria for selection of AU organs, and we are trying to fill into that criteria so that we have when that time arrives, we are clear how we want the agency to be hosted. So this is in a nutshell what is in the treaty, and the treaty is available at our website or yes, the AU website as well.
I did share the link with in the chat box, so the people that are interested in reading the treaty can just click on the link and they will find it on the African Union platform. Mimi, you are the only woman. Yes, sorry, Paul.
So you asked me about the how we want to take forward this the treaty in terms of signing. I think ET has addressed most of what I wanted to say. Tomorrow and Thursday we will have the AMRH week. Tomorrow we'll just have presentations, and then on Thursday we'll have the steering committee for the AMRH. And I know a lot of participants here have already been invited. I should also mention that when I attended last Friday the SADC Regulators Forum, they informed me that they still need some support for political engagement for the ratification of the AMA Treaty. So we have consultancies that have been working with the African Union Commission to develop briefing notes, high-level briefing notes, mainly for ministers and permanent secretaries and high-level officials. And we have also developed other IEC materials, guidance notes, and we are using these platforms like regional ministers meetings to continue, advocating for the signing and ratification of the AMA Treaty by countries. So this is what I wanted to say, but I think ET has covered most of what I also wanted to speak to. Thank you.
Thank you. Mimi, maybe you could add a bit on that also about what is now your country Ghana doing or expecting, waiting.
Okay, so currently, fortunately, because we already have ABRF looking at the clinical trials, we are, and that is going to be one of the working groups or the arms of the AMA. And we also have the Medical Devices Forum. And we also have I think the laboratory, Quality Control Laboratories Forum. So we have been taking part in these individual forums outside the AMA, but they're all working to be part of AMA. So we are not actually at a standstill, we're actually working. We will get there. So all these groups are there and they're working. So we can see the actual benefits of AMA even before we go into full operation. And at the end of the day, I mean, the way we look at it here is that the AMA is designed to build on what we're already doing. It is designed to strengthen capacity because, for example, Ghana has been assessed as a maturity level 3 by WHO. The other countries, it's the second country, Tanzania was the first. The other countries that are looking to get there. If we're working in this harmonized system, would it be easier for us to support other countries? Yes, maybe. Looking at even COVID, we have a vaccine that we are going to soon introduce that none of us know anything about. And if we were working within a harmonized system within the AMA, because for example, if you look at the malaria vaccine, it was not within ECOWAS. It was between Ghana, Kenya and Malawi. So that crossed our regional economic blocks. So if we're working within the AMA, would we have had the opportunity to have been part of a trial? Would it have been easier for industry to come in and say, I want to do a clinical trial. I know you have harmonized systems. I want to register a product. I know you have harmonized systems. Would we have known? Would you have had more opportunities for early entry into Africa? I'm not sure, but I think so. Because, I mean, as the industry said, it is easier to come into a group of countries where you have harmonized legislation, harmonized guidelines, and harmonized processes than to go to each and every individual country. So, I mean, looking at COVID, in a way, we feel like we've lost out because we have no idea what is going on in the vaccine market. We will get a product that we more or less do not know about, but we still have to evaluate. Currently, I'm sure we may be able to use we are looking at using the ABRF system to do that evaluation. But if we had AMA set up, we would have been able to use the registration working group to be able to do this. So we have started, we think we will do much more when we have AMA set up. We hope that all the other working groups will I mean, all the ratification will happen. I mean, it is bureaucratic, but it is not difficult. And we're hoping that all that will happen so that we have harmonization, which makes everything easier. It makes access easier. We would then have a common database. For example, if somebody found a counterfeit medicine in Malawi, there would be a common database to put this in, and then we in Ghana would be able to access it before, say, it got here. Would have a common database on safety. I think NEPAD, the Africa Union has even already started that, where we are looking at having the Africa Union Smart Safety Surveillance, where we would all put our safety data in. So when the COVID vaccine arrives, for example, we have a repository of safety data for the continent. So we are not at a standstill waiting for ratification. We are kind of working towards it and waiting for the what would I call it, the documents and the documentary, things to happen. But in the meantime, we are still moving and rolling as we wait to get there. So it is going to be good for all of us. We just hope that it goes quickly enough for us to be able to implement it properly.
Thank you so much, Mimi. And now I'll ask a last question to all the panelists before I will hand over for the concluding remarks to Kawaldip. I would like to ask each of you what you think about the advocacy, because it is something very important. And do you think that there is enough publicity, I would say, information regarding AMA, because it is also needed not only to convince the politicians, the political world, but also the public, the average people. I know, being myself from the press, that we don't hear a lot about that. International press is not talking about that. Maybe the fact that we have FTA, that it will help, and also maybe I hope the soon election of a head of WTO, naming Mrs. Ngozi at the head of WTO. She clearly said that she will help access to medicines. So maybe that will be also a little help to advocate more about AMA. I will start with Paul. Paul, could you please, your last words about the future? Will it be in the near future? What can we do about advocacy?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it should be a concerted effort for all of us, all those who are interested, all the stakeholders, to really advocate for the signing and ratification of the AMA treaty. One is, we should, as much as we have already been trying to do that, we should further simplify the messages that go out there, because once you start discussing technical issues, especially at the political level, even those you are engaging with might lose interest. So we should work with the communication experts and those who are in advocacy to simplify the messages that we are passing out there. The communication should be multi-pronged, should be able to engage with the media, with the, the civil society, patient organizations, government, and all those stakeholders that are involved, so that so it is not a one. There is no silver bullet I can see for this this work. I think it has to be consultative, and it has to be the efforts from different angles have to be engaged. So I think that is my last word for this.
Thank you so much, Paul, for your participation and sharing these thoughts. I now turn to Elos, but I don't see Elos. Is Elos still connected? Maybe he got... Elos, are you still with us?
I'm available.
Okay, so what is your thoughts about that? About the future, about advocacy? Could patients advocate more about it?
Yes, actually what we need is a more sustained engagement and provision of information to patient groups. So if there's simplified information provided to all patient groups, we take part in advocating with the relevant authorities, because as far as I'm concerned, AMA has got it's a bullet for us patients. And then the other issue maybe is in the governance structures of AMA. They have to be patient-centric. So whatever is being done, us as patients, we must be involved. We must be given room and a voice in the AMA governance structures. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elos. I now turn to Iti. Iti, I know WHO, you're already doing a great job. What is next?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Catherine. I enjoyed this conversation. I just wanted to maybe as my last message to say that we as WHO, and our Director General has actually committed this to the African Union Commission, that we will explore and use each and every opportunity, event, and a meeting or in a forum to continue to advocate for the establishment of African Medicines Agency, because we believe that this is the only way to accelerate and to increase efficiency in regulatory processes to ensure access to quality assured and safe medical products on the African continent. So whatever opportunity that presents before us, we will ensure that right away from the level of the senior leadership by the DG to all the other levels, we will continue to ensure that we are actually continually advocating for the establishment of the African Medicines Agency, but also following through our network of WHO regional and the WHO country offices in the African continent through our WHO representatives in countries who are close to the ministries to ensure that the Q&A advocacy tool that is with them is effectively used to ensure that the more countries ratify. But not only more countries, we are also ensuring that there is geographical representation in terms of countries that are actually ratifying, because this is very important for the buy-in and also for the effectiveness of the agency that will be supporting all the countries. Lastly, I think we believe that the COVID-19 is also a platform, and it has actually demonstrated that it is important for this agency to be in place. Now we are discussing about COVID vaccines, and you see the role played by the centralized agencies like European Medicines Agency in Europe, or the work that is done by US FDA and supporting other countries. So we are involved in several discussions with other regulators, and we are seeing that having a centralized agency, for example, on the African continent, could actually facilitate and fast track approval of products, and other countries could benefit from that. So we see that COVID-19 is also another platform that we should keep using, and to ensure that we get more ratifications and we get IFPMA operational. We are optimistic that IFPMA will be operational soon, and we'll continue to provide our technical support to this agency. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then I turn to Karim, IFPMA, Merck. Okay, you guys are organizing this event today, so it is a way to advocate for this treaty. So next step, what's next?
I think to summarize a bit the situation, Catherine, with appropriate training, capacity building, manufacturing, regulatory agility, robust inspection programs, and effective safety surveillance through the establishment of the IFPMA, we as an industry can deliver timely access of medicinal products for patients.
Thank you, Karim. And now I will turn to Kawaldip and to Greg Perry for the concluding remarks. I would like to thank and to underline the fact that the Assistant Director General, Greg Perry, is with us since the beginning. Greg, thank you so much for being with us. And I now turn and hand over to Kawaldip for the concluding remarks with Greg. Thank you, Kawaldip.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I think this is a brilliantly moderated session. Catherine, we really owe you one. When we're in Geneva, we will take you to that cafe for tea and coffee. Also, I must thank all the participants. We had over 150 participants who joined us from Africa. Passionate remarks in the various things they have said, and we will follow those remarks up eventually. My patients are also sitting on this part of the audience. We will be putting in our patient perspective separately to you guys. We'll be sending that as a document to everybody to realize. But the take-home messages we have got from this session was one, that the African Medicine Agency will restore trust in healthcare once more. I think we have all taken a battering. It will also restore pride. It will be an African-owned institution that will restore pride in Africa as a whole. It's almost meeting Kwame Nkrumah's dream of having a Pan-African oversight in regulatory matters such as health. Also, what is said that the speed at which IFPMA can be ratified needs to be looked at. We knew the WHO Framework Convention Tobacco Control Treaty was ratified under 1 year, 9 months. This is 194. This is a big elephant, you know, 194 members to be signed. Now we have a small little antelope here of a treaty. I think we can manage much better than that. Please do ensure. We have said that we need citizen journalism, patient advocacy to ensure, enlighten, debrief parliamentarians, because health is a political choice. And when you do get these letters dropping on your inbox that say that please ratify, they will. We know medicines regulatory affairs is one big elephant in Africa. Let's put it this way. You need a lot of people to look at it. You can't just address it. So therefore, no one country is able to evaluate, check, clarify all the products that are going to be coming in post-COVID. We also know not one country is able to monitor all the supply chain. So therefore, IFPMA is that. IFPMA will be able to distribute all these functionalities to various countries to take part, just as EMA has done. We know there is no threat of IFPMA to National Medicines Regulatory Agency. This is a complementary and more like an alliance of working things. It will really help us become efficient and effective in this. One of the biggest things that we see from IFPMA, I think, again, was from Ghana, came up, that will boost local African research and development. We will be control of our own clinical trials. I can see University of Makerere, Nairobi, Ghana, universities in Nigeria, all listening in. They want this. This is for them. The trials will be registered locally under local oversight. It will give enormous boost to our young Africans who are dying to help us through the next phases. Very important for us. And most important, it will boost local manufacture and local control over economy. And as you know, one of the primary reasons for setting up European Medicines Agency from the European Union was it was seen more as an economic giant. It will preserve the intellectual property rights. It will preserve the know-how. It will create that cluster. I mean, we have got Professor Michael Porter, who talks about clusters of specialty. You know, that's how these guys went out. MIT and Boston, that cluster there, and then San Francisco, didn't happen overnight. It needed that enabling environment, and IFPMA will give that. IFPMA will create that enabling environment where African clusters of excellence can work together, and the spin-offs are the moon. Let's put it this way. And lastly, I think we have said that Elos put it quite finely. We do need patients at the center of this decision making. They need to be co-creators. We are not competing as a role model. We are not a threat. A request from the patients is not a petition. It's not a judicial review. It's about, let's look at this. It will make our systems more efficient and effective and reachable as well. I think the ultimate, as we call it, of what you write, patients are able to distribute that quickly to their social media. And lastly, I need to thank everybody again. We'll follow up this. We've got lots of ideas about briefings on how to prepare briefings for your things. We will be setting up an alliance, I've said, for just like the Framework Convention Tobacco Alliance. We would like to set up now an alliance for IFPMA, a small, unique alliance. And we need to push this now. And that alliance will do the job. And let's make sure, and that's only half the job, really. I think setting up, getting the treaty ratified is just the starting journey. We need to make sure this organization functions properly, functions sustainably, and brings us the benefits we know. Thank you very much, and I'll now pass on to Greg.
So thank you. Thank you, Kawaldip. Thank you for these wonderful words to the speakers and also to wrap up. And as you just mentioned, ratifying the treaty is only a beginning. And now I turn to the lady of the group, Mimi Darko from Ghana. Yes, Mimi, I mean, I wouldn't say the best for the end. But you're the only woman among the speakers. So if you could just say a few words before giving the floor for the last words to the Assistant Director General, Greg Perry of IFPMA. So please, Mimi.
Thank you very much. Maybe next time we invite another woman, so the spotlight is not on me. But generally, coming from where we started from in Ghana, and looking at where we can go in Africa. And Kawaldip mentioned about local manufacture, because I'd mentioned earlier as well about boosting research and looking at what happened with COVID. I mean, we realized we could not get anything, and we actually managed to boost ourselves to make our own PPEs. We have not taken part much in research of vaccines, but even if the vaccines are available to us, how much will we have? So if we had this African Medicines Agency and we're all working together, would it boost local manufacture? Would there be technology transfer? Because I know there are countries that are already manufacturing vaccines. How can that technology be transferred to some of the countries that are not, to ensure that we have a good research base, and we also have a good manufacturing base, because that is the only way that Africa can be sustainable in anything that they do. That is the only way we can fight our pandemics. We will have all the regulatory knowledge, but if we don't have the research base and we don't have the manufacturing base, we will still be at a standstill. So I think all in all, we have started working towards AMA, as I said, through the different working groups like AVREF and the Blood Regulators Forum. And with the support of NEPAD, AUDA NEPAD, and WHO and the industry. You talked about advocacy, and I think maybe it's about time industry also supported. And there was a question in there that said, how can industry support? And I think AMA will also be a benefit for industry, as Karim said. And maybe industry can also help to do some advocacy with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area coming up. How will a harmonized system or a harmonized agency like AMA help to support that? So we would need the advocacy from everywhere to ensure that as Africa we can stand, we can sustain, be sustainable. The will is there, the political will is there. The resources are there. They may not be in one country, as we've always said. So how do we pull these resources together for the benefit of Africa as a whole? So AMA could do this if we worked quickly enough, if we worked closely enough, if we collaborated and gave Africa what it needs best. That is needed medicines, right quality, right time, and the good enough safety for all of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mimi. I now give the floor to the Assistant Director General of IFPMA, Mr. Greg Perry. Greg, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think I have to be very brief. I'd just like to thank all the panelists for their excellent introduction of this topic. And I say introduction because I think, as Khalid said, this is a beginning of a journey. We are fully committed. We will be on that journey with all the stakeholders towards the establishment of the AMA and what goes on beyond that in relation to all the other issues that have been said. We fully endorse all the statements which were just made previously before by the speakers. So we are committed to the AMA. We are committed to quick, timely access of safe, quality and effective medicines on the continent. Just to say, I'd like to thank also IAPO and Kawaldip in particular for partnering with this, and we have spoken together, and our intention is to continue these series of discussions on the AMA and wherever that leads us to. So once again, thank you to everybody, and thank you for all the participants for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, as we say.